Have you ever wondered, do you have enough time or energy to be able to balance both, working a full-time job or a business as well as doing real estate investing? Is it too much? Is there a way to create a balance? That's what we're going to talk about today. All right, guys. So I'm bringing on a friend here that I actually believe this is the second time I've had him on the show, Leon Barnes. Now, Leon actually is the director of membership. Really, if you've ever heard of Collective Genius, I know I've had Jason Medley on before. In fact, I think it was 2 years ago or last year, he had the number one downloaded episode voted by you guys. So excited to have Jason Medley here before. And now we've got Leon Barnes with us. But specifically, want to talk with Leon, not just about why Collective Genius is awesome, especially if you're an active real estate investor. This is some group you should be a part of and be looking into. But on top of that, Leon also manages his own real estate portfolio. So, in addition to working full time, he also is an investor as well, like many of you guys are looking at doing yourselves or are currently doing. And the big question is, how does he make it work? So, that's what I want to talk to Leon about today. So, Leon, it's good to have you back.
I can't thank you enough for having me. I can tell you're a true pro because you've done so many shows that you almost forgot I've been on the show before. It's good to be back, my friend. You've been on my show now. I've been on your show twice, and I saw you last week. So this is awesome.
I know it's always good to have you, and I'll tell you personally from my own standpoint, like you were my gel that got me connected with Collective Genius. Like you were like the person that drew me in, which obviously is why you are that director of membership, and what you're doing. Tell us more about Collective Genius and what you do with
Sure.
them.
I like the title of Chief Connector. All throughout my life, I've always enjoyed when I know someone that has a gift that can help someone else that is struggling with that particular topic. And this community was all built on go giving and helping other real estate entrepreneurs that are full-time real estate investors grow their businesses. And not everyone, Chris, as you know, wants to grow into a business. Some want just to grow this into wealth, to which we'll talk about here in a bit. But for full-time real estate entrepreneurs across the United States and now foreign countries as well, believe it or not,
Yeah.
we have over 700 members, over five different tiers for the Collective Genius. So people come to us when they want to learn from others and take that learning curve. And for those listening, obviously won't be able to see this visual, but to take the learning curve from here down to here just by learning from someone else's mistakes and their experience, because this community is willing to share with you.
And one thing I love about your culture is you always talk about leaving your ego at the door, right? It's not like
Mhm.
all these investors doing great things. It's about, hey, let's open up. Let's see how we can help and serve one another. And you guys definitely model that well.
It's easy to do, Chris, because when you have 500 real estate investors at the Collective Genius side, and our sister mastermind community has over 200 at the Family Mastermind, which are real estate educators and people that help others grow their businesses from a coaching standpoint, more so, or software.
Yeah.
When you have that many people together, what happens is this. You can come in and pound your chest with your 300 doors while someone else is in the room that's super quiet, that's in a pair of shorts and a tank top potentially that has 3,000 doors. So you can do that all you want, but
Right.
it's really easy to be humbled in a room with full-time real estate investors like the caliber of investors that we have.
It's true. There's can always be somebody bigger than you, right? Always somebody with more doors, more business, and you never know it.
Here's the little secret, Chris, is never judge a book by its cover. We've all been told that since we were little kids, and there's always something. Humble yourself. There's always something in business. I don't care if it's real estate or any other vertical of industry. Somewhere, someone is doing less volume potentially of you or doing less business of you, but you could learn from them. The best operators in the Collective Genius say, "Hey, can I go to the room where someone's only doing one or two deals a month?" And I would like, why would you want to do that? And they said,
Right.
well, there's something that they're doing grassroots. I guarantee you that we're missing that we could be doing. That's
Mm,
the type of caliber of human being that we want as a part of this community.
yeah. I love it. No, it's great, great group for sure. Well, tell us about your journey because how did you get involved with Collective Genius? How did you get into real estate in the first place?
I was, going down the path. I had a grandfather who was basically my father figure that said, "Hey, go to college." No one in our family had graduated from college. Saw something in me and said, "Go get a job." This is something that's very familiar with your listeners. This is what you talk about quite often. I was told to the American dream was to get a college degree and get a good job. I ended up doing that. I was the first in my family to graduate from college and went on to get a couple different jobs, one including a corporate sales job that I kept for 11 years. And finally, just that corporate rat race, I was burnt out. I didn't know exactly, Chris, what I wanted to do, but I knew I had skills of leading teams, of sales, and growing cultures. I knew I had all those things and I could add value to a smaller business. Corporate America is like turning an aircraft carrier. Where I
Mhm.
saw smaller businesses, I could come in because I was selling advertising to mostly mom and pop type of businesses. And I knew most of them were missing leadership below the founder. And
Mhm.
so I thought, you know what? I'm going to take this experience and turn it into something. And I looked at real estate. Specifically, there were some people that I had sold advertising to that were doing some really cool things with flipping houses and making it a business. I had never known that you could, create a business out of flipping houses and creating a rental portfolio, sell some, keep some. And I was very intrigued by it, so much so that, 11, 12 years ago, I decided to leave corporate after running my own state. I was living in Hawaii at the time. I'm probably the only person ever without military orders to transfer from Hawaii back to Kansas, where I'm originally from, and went to work for a flipping organization that we helped double in our first year with the team that we were able to assemble, double the business in the first year, and qualified for this thing called the Collective Genius, which I had never heard of before.
Mhm.
And got in the room with, like I said earlier, with people. We were doing a little over 50 flips a year and thought we were crushing, and which we were.
Mhm.
But there were people in the room doing 200, 300 flips a year. And I'm like, oh my gosh, humble yourself before this room for sure. And there's all of them said, hey, we're willing to help. If you could help us with some of the things you're doing, fell in love with the culture. That's how I got into the collective genius and eventually got to a point where I wanted to do my own thing. And went out and, my wife was a full-time real estate agent. We had a team. I was consistently buying real estate while I was working for that organization. Just didn't know what I was doing. I was paying way too much on down payments. I just took action.
Mhm.
And while I was working full time for that organization, eventually said, all right, it's time for me to go out on my own. And when I did that, I had a couple different opportunities. One of them happened to be the director of membership for the Collective Genius. And I only took the opportunity because I knew the culture of the organization. I knew that I aligned with Jason. And he said, hey, I don't care what you do when it comes to building in fact, I want you to build your wealth through real estate because you'll be a perfect example. You will be able to relate better to the people that are coming into the organization. And I said, this is a no-brainer. This will allow me to continue to grow my rental portfolio and team while I do this full time.
Mhm. Oh, I love it. And now how do you balance it? Because obviously I know you're definitely not slacking at work, which like a lot of our listeners here are. But then you're also doing like very active real estate. You're not even doing passive stuff like we talk about on the
Mhm.
show. You're even actively involved in this. How do you find the balance? How do you manage your time, systems, whatever it might be?
I mentioned earlier that I am a connector.
Mhm.
And I am somebody that when I understand that other people want some similar things that I do, that we lean on each other to help each other get to where we're going. So the easy answer, the short answer is I made great relationships, and those relationships turned into a partnership and also a full-time employee. Now, it didn't start there. I
Mhm.
was doing a lot of this on my own while working full-time and that was just wealth building, right? That's adding doors. I think
Yeah.
my first few years, I think I may have had 6 or 7 rentals after 5 years, maybe 8.
Mhm.
And then when going out on my own, that started to ratchet up pretty quickly, but only because I was able to bring on a partner that could do a lot of the things that I couldn't do, which is acquisitions. If we wanted to make this a business,
Mhm.
all of my rentals were bought from real estate agent relationships or investor relationships. I was just buying homes from relationships. When we
Yeah.
wanted to turn it into a business, that was not something that I could do while working more than a full-time gig.
Hmm.
And so I just ultimately had to leverage eventually where I wasn't going before work to go and see a property or after work, which is I did for a little while. And then
Hmm.
when I realized that we wanted this to become a business, I had to bring on a partner to be able to do that. So now it was 2 years that I worked remotely for the Collective Genius in Kansas. I now live in Tampa. I've been here for 5 years. And I have a business partner and a full-time property manager that are helping us acquire and also manage the assets that we have in that market.
So, like some people, when they think about real estate, they think, oh, I've got to find the property, buy the property, renovate it potentially, right? And then I got to manage it myself and deal with the tenants, the toilets, and the trash and all that kind of stuff. You kind of did what we've kind of done here, right? Where you created your own system, right? Your own connections and people to help delegate that off your plate.
I found the who's, Chris. Like
Yeah.
I knew what I wanted to do. In
Hmm.
order to do it, I had to find the right who's. And here is a great example. I've heard people do this before. I was doing it without really a blueprint.
Hmm.
Um, Goodness, how long has it been now? I'm dating myself here. Probably 22 years ago, 20 years ago, when I
Hmm.
first started, it was 2004. So was that 21 years ago?
Yeah.
Dating myself. 21 years ago, I hired a sales rep. He and I became really good friends. He was just somebody that was like, hey, if you ever get your own office, I want to go with you. I like the way that you manage. I just like the culture that you're building here. And we became really, really good friends. About the same age. I'm 48, he's 47.
Hmm.
Both were fans of similar teams and all of that. And we just grew a relationship. And a lot of what he wanted to accomplish in life was similar to mine. And so, everyone that's listening to this, you don't have to go at this alone. There are people that, and sometimes partnerships don't work. I get that. But if you have a true relationship where someone's like your family, and that's what my business partner is, I've known him for 20 plus years. It made it very easy because we were aligned on what we wanted to accomplish. And so ultimately, once we got to a certain amount of doors, he was able to come over and we had enough money to invest in going after properties to from an acquisition side. And he started taking over day-to-day operations of that business. But really the blueprint that I'm giving there is there's an opportunity when you make good relationships and you are equally yoked and equally aligned on your goals, it usually just falls into your plate where one of you just goes, well, why don't I just do that? And that's how it worked out for us.
If you've been following this podcast, you're probably looking for great ways to create passive income right now, right? Well, we got you covered here with Central Lending. Central Lending specializes in alternative investments that actually are designed to create steady returns and long-term financial security for you and your family. Now, they prioritize transparency. They love, building those strong relationships, giving you that confidence and peace of mind, knowing that you have your money working harder for you, so you don't have to work so hard for that money. You want to learn more how to do that? Go to centrallending.com and check out what they've got today to create your passive income and wealth creation right now. One thing I think is fascinating too, what you're talking about also reminds me, Pace Morby we had on the show a couple years ago. And it was funny because I had opened up with the same opening you heard. And then he
Mhm.
started pondering. He's like, you know what? I think I'm doing everything wrong. Because he said, I remember the first time I was like, my whole goal was I just got to get to 100 doors and then
Right,
I'll be happy. And then
right,
he's like, but then he got in rooms with other real estate investors realizing, oh, I'm nothing. I need 1,000 doors. Then I'm going to be
right,
happy. And then pretty
right.
soon he's like, well, that's nothing. I know guys that got thousands and thousands. I got to get to 10,000 doors. And he's like, maybe I'm doing it all wrong because I've been trying to build this massive portfolio with all this, stewardship and overhead and everything else. And I probably could just have 50 paid off doors and have more than enough money to be free the rest of my life and probably not have to deal with all this crap.
Mhm.
What's your perspective on that?
I am exactly the same way, but I did not start there, Chris. I started right where Pace started. Like
Yeah.
this arbitrary number of 100 always sounds great, right?
Uh-huh.
It's the number that people put out there for full-time real estate investors or people that are serious about being a landlord, but they're over leveraged on every single door and they don't cash flow and it's just an equity play, right?
Hmm.
There's so many things that go into this. And obviously, when interest rates, change, your philosophy or your strategy has to change. If it doesn't, then, you potentially, have a bunch of doors that don't cash flow. And so over time, I went from the I've got to have 100 doors because I started to see 2020, 2021, we just kept everything that we possibly could. Interest rates were so low.
Hmm.
And we started getting into, I think we got as high as 75 doors. And I realized that once the interest rates changed in March of 22, really more like April of 22, we started to get interest rates that no longer allowed us to cash flow. The Burr strategy of buy, uh, fix and flip and hold, right? That strategy was worked from an equity play, but it no longer worked from a cash flow perspective. And so it really started to go, all right, let's really look at this and what, if we want this only for an equity play because it's a wealth building, we're good.
Yeah.
But if we need this to maintain itself and not have to continue to pour money into it, these doors have to cash flow. And so you start to really look at, is this, do I really, am I buying any freedom with these doors? There's toilets, there's tenants, there's always those things that come with every single one of them. And
Hmm.
then if they're not cash flowing, it makes zero sense as you start to get into this more. And so our philosophy now is as much as possible. We're now at a point where we're getting close to some of these loans being paid off, 15-year notes.
Yeah.
And so now we're looking at the strategy of I'd rather have 40 free and clear than 100 leveraged doors. And that doesn't mean that I'm not saying that's wrong. It's
Hmm.
just our philosophy and our strategy of moving forward. I mean, we have members in CG that have been free and clear for many years that have less doors that talk about the freedom that actually comes with, that amount of money that they're receiving on a monthly basis. And it's
Right.
something that it's typically, Chris, it's typically the people with more gray hair are the ones that talk about that than the people that are younger and trying to get to these astronomical numbers.
For all of us that date ourselves, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, sometimes, a lot of times in life, we have to figure these things out on our own. And I'm not saying, again, it's wrong to own thousands and thousands and thousands of doors if that is your model.
Mhm.
I would just say to the people listening to this that are leveraging, their cash flow from work
Mhm.
to buy long-term wealth, I would just look at, does the strategy make sense? Is it a vanity number or is it a sanity number? I would
Right.
question that.
Ooh, I love that. Is a vanity number or a sanity number? It's so true. There's been many times I've seen people with lots of equity, no cash flow. And it's like, you could probably just sell this, literally took the cash, put it in a CD, and you'll make more money than you're
Yes.
making right now, with less hassle.
No doubt about it. We had people in the turn of when the market left milk and honey,
Mhm.
it went back to normalization, April of 22, because everybody that was panicking, oh my gosh, the market, oh, what is going on? It's a downturn. No, it's normalized. What was 2020 and 2021 were not real.
Yeah.
Um, so that said, we had people that in 22 that said, "Hey, I am struggling. Cash flow is, I'm not doing as many quick, fast transactions. The time on market, whether they were wholesaling, wholesaling, fix and flip, whatever, it just the lot of their cash was no longer there. The market has
Yeah.
shifted back to normal, right?
Hmm.
Well, those individuals would say, well, man, I only have like 3 months worth of cash. Well, how many doors do you have and how much equity? Like, oh, I can't sell those. Again, is it vanity or sanity? That was all vanity play. And so
Yep.
sometimes you have to do what you need to do at that given time for your business. This is go back to my point is your philosophy is going to change. Real estate is up and down, things change. Sometimes you're going to buy and hold, sometimes you're going to buy and sell. Sometimes you might have you're just going to have to take what the defense gives you or the market in this particular case. And right now for me, the play is more on the sanity piece and buying properties that are not just an equity play 30 years down the line.
Right. Exactly. So wise. So three quick questions for you. The
Yes.
first one is obviously we talk about people that have been doing investing. How about those that have only trusted in Wall Street? They're questioning it now, but they're wanting to get
Mhm.
into real estate, but they're scared. What would you
Yeah.
suggest to them?
I would find a trusted advisor, a mentor, not even to start out with buying real estate. I would just find someone, and there's plenty of people that are available today versus 11, 12 years ago when I made the transition from corporate. There are plenty of people that you can go to that, are trusted and every market has them. How do I know? Well, I've got 500 plus of them in almost every major metro and secondary market. There is someone that will be willing to give you your time. I think of like a guy like Eric Brewer. He
Mm,
does breakfasts with people that reach out to him and they just want to pick his brain, quote unquote, right? Not
mm,
saying everyone does that, but there are people that are absolute rock stars in your market that you can know, like, and trust that will give you good advice. And then if you do want to buy assets, there are tons of people that offer turnkey solutions for those that are high income earners or want to take money from one place to the next. I would always just say this, just diversify as much as you possibly can and get at least two or three references for the individual that if you do go that route of having someone do it for you, make sure you get enough references that that person is a trusted advisor. And then from there, if you want to do it on your own, you now have a blueprint to be able to do that. The biggest issue with most people starting out is just understanding the numbers, right? How do I underwrite this deal? You can find a coach or a community that can help you with the underwriting process, and then find plenty of investors that will sell you deals.
that's
Hope
right.
that was kind of mixed between trusted advisors and doing it on your own. A
Mhm.
little bit convoluted, but hopefully you can pick out wherever you are in your journey right now, pick something from that.
No, I appreciate that. That's the shout out we often say on our show too. So that's a hashtag money ripples, just saying. But no, that's awesome. That's perfect. So yeah, two last questions for you. One, I know you're the podcast host of the Collective Genius podcast. If people want to follow you or Collective Genius, what's the best way to do so?
The best way, first and foremost, thanks for the shout on the out on the podcast. You are one of, I think we're 30 episodes in that we drop on Tuesdays. We also have a Friday that we do at our events live. These are really good, especially for those people that are looking to learn from individuals that are doing this as a business. So you can find that at thecgpodcast.com. One of those episodes is Mr. Miles right here, thecgpodcast.com. And then on any of the social medias, you just type in the Collective Genius and you will find our community, whether it's Instagram or Facebook.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll be sure to put that in the show notes for everybody to follow because it's a great one, guys. You definitely, if you love hearing stories about real estate investors, they got the best of the best on that show.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I will also say, to this community, Chris is somebody that has been in these rooms. And so you have someone here that's not only done a ton of podcasts, which, by the way, I learned a stat from a gentleman that's in our community said something along the lines of, if you've done a podcast for more than, I think it was 12 months, you're already part of the 1% or something along those lines. So congrats to you for this long-term show. And, for your community, Chris should be your trusted advisor in this space. I mean, he's been in every single room that I've been in for a very long time, whether it's here, family, Freedom Founders, where you were originally introduced to me. You've been referred to me multiple times by people I know, like, and trust. So kudos to you for the community that you've built here, and it's always a pleasure to be on your show.
Appreciate that. Birds of a feather, right?
Yes, sir. They flock
Yeah,
together.
that's right. Well, last question for you. I mean, this is obviously the Money Ripples podcast. We talk about the ripple effect you create in people's lives. So, Leon, what do you feel is your ripple effect on this planet?
Wow. Um, well, I hope that's a great question. Um, I know within this community, um, I have had an impact on people's financials for sure.
Mhm.
I know that I have. I talked to a young man that's in his 20s that in 1 year is going to double his business, go from $500,000 to $1 million of gross income, gross profit for the year. I mean, that's a
Wow.
that's a that's a lasting long-term legacy for him, his family, and many generations to come. As long as he continues that, um, I hope though that it's beyond just money. I hope
Mhm.
it's the passing along of helping others, right? I think I don't think I know that our planet would be a much better planet if we listened first, and then if we have the ability to help solve, then solve for whatever that thing is. And if not, I love being a connector, and usually it's because I just talk to a bunch of people and get to know people and ultimately can put A and B together because I know that person can help them with that. So I hope that it's almost a ripple effect of kindness and help uh, a fellow man or woman.
Man, Leon for president 2028. That would be awesome.
I, my wife says that there's certain videos that I can't do to promote whether it's our podcast or promote CG because when I do run for political office, she doesn't want anything, any skeletons in my closet.
Right. Get that. Yeah. See, you're
I'm
thinking it.
probably too nice. I'm probably too nice at this point. I did see, yeah, I know you are in Utah, and I did see 60 Minutes I think it was last week, and the
Uh,
governor of Utah, like just the way he thinks, and how he's always willing to listen to someone else. I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my wife going, man, he and I are very similar,
yeah.
and he's a governor. I don't want to be president. Maybe I should be governor.
Yeah. There you go.
Give me
I
a few
mean, Florida
years.
needs a new one eventually, right? You can't
Yeah,
keep
last year, I believe. Yes.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Leon, I appreciate your time on today and very generous and great advice. I definitely know that for sure. So thank you again for joining us.
Thanks for having me as always, Chris. Hopefully, we'll see you again here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, look forward to it. And everybody else, make sure again you follow the CG podcast. And of course, guys, you can listen all day long, but until you do something, your life will remain the same. So make sure you go and make it a wonderful and prosperous week. And we'll see you later.